Now, we have a list of sensational speakers today, but I can think of nobody better than to provide the opening keynote for today than the founder of Enterprise Nation and the author of Go Global, which is a highly acclaimed book. If you haven't got it already, go out and get it. It's a great read. So I'd like to welcome on stage for the opening keynote, Emma Jones.
Thank you, Michael. I'm very tempted to offer you a job as my sales agent. The highly acclaimed book, Go Global. Of course, I'm very biased, but yes, I also think it's highly acclaimed. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I really wanted to just follow on, actually, from a point that Julie just made in terms of, start small, think big, move fast. Because I was just thinking this morning, I run a company called Enterprise Nation, which represents small businesses. And when I say small businesses, I mean micro enterprises, one-man bands, one-woman bands. But I quite often say, when I'm representing kind of our members, they may be small businesses, but there's nothing small about their level of ambition. And actually, this is completely relevant for this point about going global. Because just as background in terms of why I'm here to talk about this, is I met a young lady called Emma Henderson in September 2009. We were in Glasgow. We did a road trip across the UK, business road trip. And I met this young girl, and I said to her, right, what's your business? And she just left college. And she said, well, what I do is I import fair trade bags from India. I apply this beautiful, unique print screen design, and then I upload them to a website that some of you may know called Etsy.com, which is a very powerful American website for people who make handmade goods. And she said, and I've sold some to America, and she said, not only have I sold to US individual customers, she said, I then got picked up by a US blogger, and I'm now supplying the US department store Anthropology, which for those of you who know, that's quite a big department store. And this girl was running this business from her spare room in a Glasgow apartment. So I said to her, so essentially you are running a global business. I think our next speaker calls it a mini multinational. You're running a global business from your spare room. And it made me think this is so possible for thousands more small businesses to do that. The website has opened us up to a global audience, and yet there is still fear from small businesses that all of a sudden kind of something outside of our own island is very scary. So I decided to write a book which is called Go Global, How to Take Your Business to the World, as a first step guide for any small business who has thought, wouldn't it be fantastic to start selling overseas, but I literally just don't know where to start and how scary it would be. So what I wanted to do this morning in my 20 minutes, and my chairman is going to be clock watching for me, is run you through. In the book, it gives 5 practical steps as to how you can take your business global, and I just wanted to condense those for you this morning. But just before that, there's the reasons as to why businesses should be looking to go global. And there's 3 key reasons I give in the book. One is financial. So we are facing what is a flat domestic market at the moment. In fact, even just walking down here this morning, I seem to be seeing this one phrase everywhere at the moment. It was on mugs in a shop window as I walked down this morning, which is this, keep calm and carry on. And I think it absolutely sums up. I spoke in Nottingham yesterday morning to a room full of women business owners. And my final point I had to make to them is, as business owners at the moment, we're all looking as to where our sales come from, where our profit is going to be, but we've just got to keep going. And I keep on thinking, do not say it, but it is this kind of keep calm and carry on. So we're facing a flat domestic market. However, there are over 1.2 billion customers online and around the globe, so huge opportunity. The exchange rate is in our favour at the moment for people in the UK, so let's make the most of that. And technology enables us to do it. There is political willpower like we've never seen before. Julie mentioned this. I was with this gentleman for big chunks of Monday, and his commitment to helping businesses start, grow, and go global is incredibly clear. Likewise, on the other side of the pond, President Obama has launched something called the National Export Initiative, which from the US side is to double the number of exports from the US by 2015, which is a phenomenal target to set. So we've got technology enabling us, financial reasons to do so, and political momentum. However, we have all these enabling factors, and yet still we have over 4 million businesses, small businesses in the UK, a small minority are exporting. Why is that? Because there's fear and perception and myths that have been built up over a number of years and are still in place. And in fact, when I was writing the book, is there anybody here from Business Link? Okay, so what I'm about to say may upset you. Okay, but I say this in the best possible way. If you go onto the Business Link website, and it's a natural thing to do, when you click onto the bit that talks about exporting, there is an image of a massive cargo ship in choppy waters with great big crates on it. And that is still our perception of exporting in the UK, that it's big stuff on big carriers, i.e. it requires a big budget and a big team. That is actually not the case. So one of the fears people have is, I've got to be successful here for years before I can start exporting. One of the most enlightening figures that came out from the work we did is 20 profiled case studies in the book Go Global, but we also ran a survey on the website. 64% of the small businesses that responded to that survey had gone global within 2 years. They did not have an export department. They did not have anyone focused on this. What they did have was a great product that they were communicating to the world, as Julie mentioned, and they responded well when they got clients coming in saying, we want to buy that, but we don't happen to be in your country. So 64% going global within 2 years is fantastic. Other fears, I won't be able to convert one international sale into more. Actually, you can. And in fact, something that I got from the 20 case studies here, every single one of the businesses profiled in this book said, you know, we thought this was going to be scary, but actually, once we got into export, then you get to know your way around the documentation, and all of a sudden you are trading with the world and thinking, that's a lot easier than I thought it would be. So, in terms of these 5 steps, step 1, to do your research. That is a combination of reactive and proactive. And by reactive, I mean check Google Analytics. Is your site currently attracting international traffic? And I know it's a very simple thing to say, but one of the companies profiled in the book is a business called One Day Later, and they sell time tracking software, 2 brothers based in the Northeast. And they looked at Google Analytics, and they were attracting 50% of their traffic from the US. And they thought, that's great, but what's not so great is all of our products are priced in pounds. So let's start to price it in dollars on the site. Let's start promoting ourselves in the US. And now they literally have 50% US customers, 50% non-US. So just little things you can do to check. Proactive research, there is a wealth of information available. Banks, I don't know if any of the high street banks are here, they are all pretty powerful in terms of international trade. Ulster Bank. Yes, Ulster Bank is here, and I'm sure Simon would agree with me on this. The banks have great export departments and information you can access. UK Trade and Investment have a couple of programs, one called OMIS, which stands for the Overseas Market Introduction Service, where you can access all their diplomatic posts, and they will offer introductions in local markets. They've also got something called the Export Market Research Scheme, EMRS, which you do have to pay for, but it's a great way of researching your market. Has anyone come across the website Alibaba.com? Okay, so I'm going to mention that again. They've got fantastic research that you can access either industry sectors or country reports. And things to look out for when you are doing your research, I talk about this in Go Global, is to look for 4 things. So all begin with C: countries, customers, competition, and cost. So which are the countries which will best receive your products? Who will your customers be? Where are they at the moment? How are they being served? What's the competition, and what will it cost you to get your products out there? And also, what cost can you sell the products at? So step 2 is to promote, and this backs up something that Julie just mentioned. This really, the web has enabled so much activity to happen, and in the book I talk about 5 websites you can reach out to 982 million people online. And you can probably imagine what those websites are: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Flickr. And the reason why I mention those sites is whether you are selling products or services, I talk about taking content, so if it's a service that you're selling, and in fact, if I just use an example, it's probably easier to do this. One of the guys profiled in the book is the world's expert on something called micro-stock photography. So this man, what he's done is he started a blog talking about micro-stock photography. He then did self-publishing using a website called lulu.com. He takes videos with just a $99 flip camera, which he then uploads to YouTube on the topic of micro-stock. He's now developed an app, which he's doing with a company called iStock Photo. This man uses every outlet that he can that gives him big visibility, because these websites have got lots of people coming onto them. And you can similarly do that with products. Take pictures of your products and put them on Flickr, blog about your products, tweet about your products, and when any customer is searching, they will be able to find your products because you are out there on very, very powerful websites. Press release is still important, and in the book I talk about international press release services you can use. There's something in the UK run by a company called Fresh Business Thinking called the International Trade Awards. So even things like that, it's great to get into these awards. It raises your profile. Government support to actually sell and to access markets. You may have come across something called the Trade Show Access Programme, which again is a great thing to benefit from. The government pay, and maybe Lord Green will talk about this later, the government will pay to get you out to a country and start exhibiting. So all powerful things that you can access in terms of information, but also utilising these websites to build your global brand. Make sales, which of course you can do via your own website, but this is where, again, the power of the likes of Alibaba.com, and we did an event for them in December called Open Sesame. And there was this fantastic, we had a panel of businesses that had benefited from Alibaba, and one of which is a story, it still makes me smile, is a beautiful looking lady who had gone camping in Dorset, and she needed to go to the loo. And she thought, right, I don't want to go, I've never been camping, so I can't imagine this experience, but she thought, I don't want to go to the whatever they have on campsites for the loo. And she thought to herself, why don't people have something that they could use? So this lady who used to work at B&Q came up with a concept called Bog in a Bag. And she turned to Alibaba.com and she sourced from China 2 different things. One thing which is like a fishing stool but without the stool in it, and like a disposable bag in which goes in the fishing stool. So she has developed this thing called Bog in a Bag, which is being sold in independent retailers. She's absolutely, this is the thing that's astounding about this woman. She's a beautiful looking woman, and all I could say to her when I met her is, you're the most attractive woman I've ever seen in toilets. And she said, yes, but how many women have you ever met who deal with toilets? Good point. But anyway, the point is, she couldn't have done her business or started her business without Alibaba.com, because she sourced all this stuff from China at great rates. And actually the point she made at this event that we ran is at some point she will hopefully start selling her products back via Alibaba. So really incredibly powerful. And I mentioned Etsy.com, which may not be relevant for this audience, but Etsy is a website that I hold with great respect. It started in the US by a very young man called Rob Kalin. They now have 500,000 people who are making handmade goods and selling via their very powerful site. And these artisans are generating billions of dollars worth of sales via Etsy.com. So all these websites that you can now use to make sales. Accepting payments, PayPal is pretty worldwide known now in terms of a way to accept payments, so it gets over this fear factor of how to collect funds. Delivering, of course, ensuring successful delivery of a product. In the book, I talk about the courier companies that are incredibly competitive on their rates at the moment, because, of course, there's a good number of them fighting for custom. Documentation. This is a big fear from small businesses. How on earth will I learn the documentation in terms of what forms are to be filled in, CN23s, etc., etc. And actually, this girl, Emma Henderson, who was the inspiration for the book, when I said to her, you know, you've just come out of college, you're importing, you're exporting, how on earth did you pick up the knowledge that you needed? And she said, oh, the UPS man taught it all me. And she, you know, it's incredible. Seek and you will find. The UPS man, who I think she now has a relationship with, taught her everything she needed to know about export documentation. And it sounds basic, but again, in this country, one thing we've got to stop doing is putting up obstacles. Oh, I can't do that because I'll never understand the export documentation. Well, actually, the UPS man will help. And just one more thing from this girl is she went out to her first trade show in the States. She was about to get the anthropology deal. She desperately needed to get out there. She got no money. She did actually apply for public support but didn't get it. So she used her dad's air miles. So it's kind of, you know, there are ways around this. You can do these things, but we've got to stop bringing down the reason I can't do it because of this. Customer service. I'm just going to mention one piece of software which I think is fantastic if you're servicing customers 24 hours round the day and round the globe, which is called Get Satisfaction. So, of course, you can't be awake 24 hours if you've got customers in different time zones. But there's something called Get Satisfaction, which is essentially if your customer has a question, they can pose that question and either your community responds or essentially they can generate the answer from the content that's on the website. Again, the book mentions lots of tools that you can make the most of that whilst you're sleeping, the business can continue to operate. Step 5, which is the final aspect, is go local. And actually, I have to say, all the businesses that were profiled, they had responded to customer inquiries once they'd started earning from exports and international sales then they had started committing budget to going local. And just a couple of things, and I will not talk about website localization because I know we've got a speaker talking about that later, but a really cute thing that I think, which somebody actually, a reader of the book, wrote in the other day and said he's now using, is local rate numbers. So that you can get something called Skype in, which costs £25, and you can have, if you want a number in Manhattan, you can have a 212 number. And if somebody's calling you from Manhattan, they only call at the local rate, and that costs you £25 for a local look and feel. There's a company called Vonage who also offer that. Regis, the serviced office company, they now have 1,100 centres around the globe. And actually this guy who did read the book, he's a publisher. And he wrote in the other day and he said, I have now got an office on Broadway thanks to you. And I'm like, whoa, how did that happen? And he just got a Regis office, which he's paying £65 a month for, virtual office, so it gives him that local look and feel. Local shipping is something else that you might want to consider. So this, a very, very quick run through in terms of how you can go global. And I guess just a couple of the stories, as my chairman is bringing this to a close, is Lee Torrens, I mentioned. He's the man who's the world's expert on microstock. But this lovely lady here in the middle runs a company called Johnny's Sister. And just very briefly in terms of her story, she sent one of these lovely love letters to the editor of Country Living magazine. It got covered in Country Living magazine. Apparently they've got a big readership in Australia. She started to get orders from Australia. She's now manufacturing in Peru. She's selling across European states, into Asia, everywhere. And she literally, when I did the phone interview with her over the phone, I said, are you promoting yourself overseas? She said, no. I'm absolutely terrified that if I do promote myself, we'll get even more orders. And this came from one piece in Country Living magazine. Perfectly shows what's possible. And the final one, and then I am going to get kicked off, jelly. Even jelly sells across the globe. This beautiful company is called Bumpus and Parr, and I don't know if you've ever come across them. It's two madmen who make their living out of jelly. And they're selling it in Singapore and San Francisco, and they go and talk about jelly around the world. And this is the thing, it sounds ridiculous, but what I wanted to show with these three very different case studies is whether you are selling product or service, whether it be jelly, love letters, or expertise in microstock photography, there are some basic steps you can follow to get your brand and to get your business out there. So I hope that's been helpful, and I look forward to any questions later.